watch me today, and then he will be leaving, so I just want to let you know there's a guy in here. But I do appreciate his support. Goodness, this has been a long time coming. I have dreamt of speaking at Voices of Hope for a long time. So the title of my speech today is From Ashes to Sunflowers, and I'm going to share a bit about my story and where I have come from and where God has led me now. I'm going to start out with a Bible verse, Isaiah 41:10. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand. I was born on January 24th, 1989. I was born 3 weeks early by emergency C-section at Morristown Memorial Hospital in New Jersey. My mother almost lost me after having preeclampsia, placenta previa, and gestational diabetes. I always say that I was my mother's miracle child. I was the first child of 5 children to be born alive. My mother had lost 4 of my brothers before me. I have 2 older brothers that would have been my father's, but I was my mother's only living child. From the moment I was born, I state that my life started what I call the story of miracles. I was born alive after my mother's medical diagnosis. I was born 3 weeks early with breathing issues, and the second miracle had happened actually 2 days before I was born. I was supposed to be born with spina bifida. For those of you that don't know that, that's where the bottom of your spine is actually open, and you're typically not able to walk. My mother always said that it was like the hand of God was on me because when I was born, they actually saw a very clear translucent skin and could visualize my tailbone, but it was actually closed. The next miracle that would happen was that I actually got to say goodbye to my father when I was 10 weeks old. My father would die of a heart attack, and at that moment, my life would flip upside down. Probably one of the worst offenses is when they say that children at a young age and as infants don't remember trauma. That's not true. The morning of my father's death, I had actually woke up, he had fed me, changed me, and put me to bed, and I had kept crying, and little did I know that that would be my last interaction with my father. From that moment, as a little tiny baby, I was very sick and I was very angry. My mom had said that up to this point I was fairly healthy, and after my father died, I began to projectile vomit. I began to scream all the time and have stomach issues. And as I would grow up, I would become even angrier. Why can't I be the kid who has a father? 2 Corinthians 6:18 says, And I will be a father to you, and you shall be sons and daughters, says the Lord Almighty. When I was 3, we would move from Parsippany, New Jersey, back to Holmes County, Ohio, and we would live on a farm raising over 1 million chickens for Case Farms. My mom built a beautiful custom house, and we lived there until I was 8. At that point, being a widow and a single mom, she could no longer take care of this, and so we then moved back to our home farm between Walnut Creek and Trail on 375 acres. Growing up on a farm had a lot of positives. It taught me my hard work ethic. It taught me how to love helping others. It taught me to love animals. For those of you that know me well, even now I have 3 dogs, 4 cats, and 3 bottle-fed goats, and I'm always entertaining lots of animals. For me, it's kind of my comfort zone. From the time I was 8 until I was 17, I would grow up on this farm. It taught me an outlet to get away. I had a horse, I would ride, I would stay in nature. It was my safety zone. It would help me relax. I still find nature relaxing. But once again, at 8, my life would flip upside down. You see, we weren't Amish. My family had been Amish, so technically ex-Amish, but we had Amish hired hands. One of these hired hands would, at the age of 8, begin raping and molesting me in the barn. I remember feeling very terrified and very numb. He would threaten to kill my mom and my family if I told anyone, and so I didn't tell anyone. A few months later, after being very sick, I finally told my best friend at the time during a sleepover. She told her mom, and her mom then told my mom. My mom did what she thought was best. She tried her best to protect me, but she failed, as many of us do. See, instead of protecting me, instead she actually managed to hurt me more. She took me, because we were Baptists at the time, she took me up to Michigan to talk to a pastor, tell him what had happened, and asked him what I wanted to do. And honestly, I just wanted it all to go away. So I said I forgave my abuser and I wanted it to go away. However, that weekend I happened then to come home, go to my grandparents' house, and I remember to this day, what sticks out to me was that I couldn't spend the weekend with my grandfather, I had to come home. When I came home that weekend, boy did I have a surprise for my little mind. See, sitting in my driveway in a buggy were 3 Amish bishops, along with my abuser. See, they had come to make my abuser apologize, and as he sat in my safety zone, my house, and looked at me with his cold blue eyes, he said he was sorry. But he wasn't sorry. He was sorry that he had gotten caught. To this day, I'll never forget his eyes. He wasn't sorry at all. So then I was sent around the house, and whatever they were to discuss that week, I wouldn't find out until actually in the last couple of years what they discussed. What they discussed in that appointment with my mother was that they actually paid her silence. See, whenever we needed something done around the house as a widow, my mom had porches built, sheds built, we had the youth come and sing for us. We needed anything, it was done. Stepping back a little, I always say that when my father died, my mom snapped a little bit. She was very smart, and she was very brilliant. She was actually director of Nabisco, and I don't know if any of you have ever had frosted shredded wheat. My mom actually invented that. She invented the extrusion process of frosted shredded wheat, and it's something that I still enjoy eating today. I'm very proud of her and her journey. She, once again, protected me, tried to protect me. She brought me home, she homeschooled me, did not let me participate in any sports. I dressed Mennonite, wore a covering, had cape dresses. We attended multiple churches as she searched for the truth. By the time I was 12, I was cooking, cleaning, babysitting for our Amish neighbors, milking cows, sewing. But my mom had a mental illness, and I didn't know that. Now, looking back, I see it. There are times she would get so angry that she would beat me. She would beat me because she wanted me to not be sinful or not get out and about or out of the way, and I think she over-exaggerated what needed to happen. She would always say she'd beat the sin out of me. There were days that I distinctively remember pulling leather pieces out of my bleeding butt because she'd beat me so hard. There were days that she would lock me in my room and make me live off of water and food. I got real good at climbing in and out of the window because I never wanted to stay in my room. I was always on a diet, always. By the time I was 14, I barely weighed 80 pounds. By the way, my 9-year-old weighs 80 pounds and he's this big. My mom always said I was fat. To this day, I struggle with an eating disorder. See, I grew up in a Christian home. I grew up with religion. I didn't grow up with God. My hair had to be so long, my dresses had to be to the floor. My mom was seeking the truth, but she was looking for the truth in wrong places. This would solidly affect all of my relationships. But you know what? Through all of this pain and suffering, God was going to teach me how to forgive other people. Deuteronomy 31:8 says, "It is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed." One of my happiest memories was a trip we took to the East Coast for my high school graduation. with a friend of mine. During this time, my mother would have one of her mental breakdowns, making my mom so afraid that we would have to come home. But yet the memories on that trip and seeing the East Coast would still stick in my mind. I was engaged in high school to my high school boyfriend, who was a Marine, and while he was in the Marine, he actually would end up telling me that he was actually gay, and we ended our relationship. My mother's and I's relationship was very strained at this time. I felt alone, betrayed. I had a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression. I was very suicidal. After a failed suicide attempt that my mom never really understood, I kind of went off on my own. I had actually first started my college education, much to my mom's dismay, because I was supposed to be at home cooking, cleaning, getting ready to get married and have babies, and I wanted to go to college. During this time, I got mixed up with the wrong group of friends. I became addicted to drugs and sex, looking for love and acceptance in all the wrong places, but yet God's hand was still in my life. During this time, I ended up overdosing on drugs, and I ended up actually dying. But God wasn't done. He miraculously restarted my heart, and the reason I say that God restarted my heart is because the drug dealers that I was hanging out with at the time just kind of left me in a house by myself, and they peaced out. They didn't care whether I was dead or not. I woke up 3 days later to a friend of mine who actually had felt so guilty that they left me there. He didn't call 911, he just came and sat with me for 3 days. Shortly afterwards, I was actually kidnapped by one of those drug dealers. I was drugged, and I woke up to a place that I still don't even know where it was. I feel like it was somewhere in Alliance, Ohio. I woke up drugged, naked, and tied to a bench. And somehow, only of God, I got away from that. At this point, I realized that if I did not stop going down the wrong path, I was going to end up dead. So I went back home, and I told my mom I needed help. Well, my mom gave me two options. You either go to college or you go to rehab. So I went back to Malone University. The weeks that followed at Malone University, I would actually put myself through one of the most brutal rehabs of my life. I couldn't even get out of bed for 2 weeks because I was so sick detoxing from drugs. My classmates at the time, as Anna said earlier, they were there for a season. They helped me, they brought me my homework, they brought me food, and I got through those weeks, and I'm alive here to talk about it. However, after 2 semesters at Malone University, I had to leave, something that I am still struggling with, being very angry about. I had to leave because my mom became very sick, and I was the only one to take care of her. During this time, I would meet my first husband. He was a pastor. He had to be a great guy, right? And so we ended up getting married while taking care of my mother. I wanted to get out of my mom's house, so I married him. There were so many red flags, so many. But I got married anyway. On our honeymoon, a few weeks after we got married, we were in a hotel room in Florida, and he looked at me and he said, "Just so you know, you will not be reading the Bible. You will be doing things my way, and we will do things this way." And I was slightly horrified. I was like, what kind of a guy did I marry? About a year into our marriage, he then was pregnant with our first child. He had a rage and threw me down the stairs, in which I lost our baby. At that point, I told my mom I was done, and I filed for divorce. Once again, after my divorce and the loss of my child, I found myself abandoned and scared. My mom was pretty sick at this time, fighting for her life due to kidney disease, and I didn't know how to cope, but I knew I needed some help, so I started with counseling. I was diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety, depression, once again attempted suicide, was diagnosed by a doctor that told I was never going to have children. So I threw myself into work, started becoming an alcoholic, because that's how you deal with things, right? Once again, God wasn't done with my story. In Psalms 139, 13 through 18, it states, "For you created me in my utmost womb. You knit me together in my mother's womb, and I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made." It was during this time that I would meet my husband, Justin. We were young and hurting, him also getting out of a terrible divorce, and we were naive. 2 months into us dating, I found out I was expecting my now 11-year-old daughter, Addison. We were shocked, but at the same time took time to grow apart, get back together, and get married, and we've been married for 11 years, but it hasn't been an easy 11 years. The first year of our marriage brought me learning how to be a mother. My mother dying, We decided I needed to go to nursing school, financial difficulties, mental illness, and many different things. Throughout our marriage, we have had some times where we were separated, not because anything terrible happened, because both of us needed to grow up. But yet, God continues to grab us, bring us together, and teach us that He is still taking care of us. About 5 years ago, I attended my first Voices of Hope conference. Some of you are there for that. And my aunt brought me pretty much kicking and screaming. I wanted nothing to do with it. She said, I think you should come. I'm going to pay for you to go. I don't want to go. What is this? I don't want to be here. Yet, shortly after that conference is where I would say that life began to change. I met such amazing people, friends. Sometimes I only get to see you all once a year. It is so amazing. A few weeks after that, I got some guts and encouragement. And I decided to report my childhood abuser. Now, as a wife and a mom and a nurse, sitting in the small yet intimidating interrogation room for the first time, I would share my story. Yet, little did I know that COVID would happen a few months later, putting a painful hold on everything. Interestingly enough, my abuser would confess to everything, including painful details that my 8-year-old mind would block out. I want to stand here before you and tell you that he's in prison right now and that I'm healing. Yet, unfortunately, that's not the case. See, instead, he pled insanity. He acted crazy for a whopping 6 months at a local facility in the area, and they dropped the case, saying that he wasn't mentally stable enough. This man lives in our community, in a home with children, and his brother and their wife does not care. He is on medicine. He's being watched by the government. He has a care facility, but yet I live with that every day. However, he is a registered sex offender, and I have now gotten the reputation of a black sheep of reporting my abuser, and I have upset many, many, many people. I can honestly tell you that healing never ends. It is a constant process. See, all of this negativity that I talk about isn't to make you all feel bad for me, or isn't to say, oh man, she's gone through a lot and feel sorry for her. It's just to say that I am who I am today because of my journey. I've taken my pain, my suffering, and I've turned it in to helping other people. I see just sharing my story helps one person. All of the pain and horror that I've been through in my life will make it worth it. Last year was one of my toughest years. My husband and I had some issues going on. I had multiple surgeries. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which, by the way, comes from physical trauma, as I have learned. Some people know this story, but I was doing a little FBI looking on the internet and found out that my ex-husband is actually a sexual predator, and I had to report him to the police. See, once again, God's hand is in every step. He protected me. Our marriage is slowly getting better, and honestly, we're happier than ever. God's used our trials and tribulations, pain and suffering, depressions, loss of my miscarriages, to His glory, and always presented Himself. He's helped me use this pain to guide others and share with others, be the best parent that I can. Which brings me to something that I want to slightly weave into this. Last night I was actually requested by an Amish man in the community who's like a second father to me to share with you all the things that I've done as a parent to protect my children from abusers. See, the first thing that I've done with the help of God is I've taught my children anatomically proper names for their body anatomy. And the reason that I've done this is because no matter what, they're going to learn it anyway. So why not teach it properly? I've taught them that there are no touch zones and that no one touches them in those places without their permission. It built trust in my children instead of fear, so that they can come to me or anyone in the family or my friends with any problems that they've had. See, it is our job to report abuse if we know about it, because if we know about abuse happening, we are just as guilty as the abuser. We need to teach our children to be powerful warriors and give them those jobs. In closing, I just want to share with you that no matter what you're going through, faith and prayer in God can do anything. Christ is my all in all, and these are the following things that I've learned to help heal my journey. Find friends. Friends that pray for you and not talk behind your back. Find a trusted, worthy, licensed, and I'm going to underline licensed, counselor. No offense to all these Amish wannabes, they're not licensed. Find a licensed counselor because it will help. If you need medication, it is okay. It does not make you a less person. As a wife and a nurse, I can tell you that yes, there is a place for holistic medicine. I use my oils, but I also take my Prozac. It's just the way it is. Ask for help when you're overwhelmed. Ask for help. It's okay. And if somebody doesn't help you, find somebody else because your true friends will help you, even if they're praying from a distance. The next thing I've done is I read and listen to as many encouraging books. I'm on the road as a home care nurse a lot, and so I listen to a lot of books on tape in the car. I learn everything from self-help books to criminals, things. I'm always learning. I'm learning how a criminal thinks. I'm learning how to be aware of my surroundings. I'm learning how to make myself a better person. And the next thing I've done is pray. Prayer and writing and journaling has helped me in so many ways. So in closing, I want to share with you one of my favorite Bible verses. A Bible verse that many of us hear at lots of weddings. 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things.